Hey, welcome back. Today we've got something, pretty simple to do, but I thought some of you might like the concept. They've been around for a long time, and I've got one on my shed, so that when I walk up to the shed, it lights it up if I'm trying to do it at night or when I'm trying to lock it up when I leave. I have used some in the past. I used to frequently stay at a farmer's place, and he was an elderly bloke, and he used to have that many jobs on during the day. He used to keep, he still does, keeps a milker, and he would milk his cow virtually in the dark. And this was milk for himself. He drank it straight from the cow, pretty much, whatever he used. And I said to myself, geez, it needs some light in here. It was like a really old school dairy farm. I'm talking old school. Had 4 stalls, but he didn't use it as a dairy farm. He just used it to milk the one cow just for himself, and I think his daughters had some of the milk as well. And but most of the time he got down there to milk, it was right on dusk, or if not practically dark. And he was getting on in age, early 70s, maybe a bit earlier than that, maybe about 68, something like that, when we put it in. And I was in Aldi one day, because I had one of that on my shed. Not sure if I still got one. Here they are, here. Here's the ones that I bought from Aldi. And the batteries on these have since gone, but the concept is the same. You had a solar panel, because the farmer had no power out near the dairy, and that's why light was difficult. He used to have a torch, and he'd set the torch somewhere to shine light when he couldn't see. But as he was walking into there, sometimes it was daylight, but by the time he left, it was pitch black. So these were only like $15 at the time from Aldi, and I'm not sure if it's still working or not. The last time I was there, he said it was still working, so he got a fair bit of use out of it. What I found with these was, during the heat of the day, you got so much heat onto the panel that it actually melted the solar contact for the wire at the back, and would stop charging the battery, which is located in here. That's what happened to mine on the shed eventually. His is out in the open more, so maybe the wind kept it cool. I don't know, but concept is it's got a sensor and basically an on-off switch, so you can switch it on to stay on, or you can run it just off the sensor, or you can have it switched off. And basically it was mounted on a wall. It had you can see these little tabs here, had a mounting template. You mounted that to the wall with a couple of screws. Basically you slid that on, it locked it in place, and then you had another mount. You got a fair bit of cable there that you could run that off and get it full sunlight. That was the concept behind them, but mine didn't last too long. And that, I found them around, they were pretty cheap. I mean, you can feel the plastic, it's pretty cheap, and out in the sun they do degrade, and even the plastic for the sensor degrades. But I since bought a newer one for my shed. Bought that from Bunnings. It's around the $70 mark, so a bit more expensive, but you can tell from the solar panel and the actual plastic, it's a lot better quality. That's been up there for several years now, and it's still working quite well. But I was in Costco the other day, and I come across these, and let's see if I can get a better picture of it. There it is there, and these were only $49.99, 2,500 lumens, quite bright. 3 individually adjustable lights on them. I quite like that idea, because I have an area along the side of my house. We've got an external light there, but we tend to forget to turn it off. Well, kids, which are young adults, tend to forget to leave it off. to turn it off. And I have, this is when want me to put a sensor light on it, but then that's, you know, you got to tie it into all the electrics and back to the switch. Yeah, it's a lot more involved, and I really don't like getting in the roof anymore to do that sort of thing, because it tends to really affect my asthma. And I wear a dust mask, but then that is very awkward with heat, and yeah, it's not fun. So plus my knees on the roof, because you got to kneel on the roof trusses. Yeah, that I don't like it. So I try to avoid it as much as possible. And because it's not a frequent thing, us going out there, I thought probably a better option. And you know, if it comes on from something activating it, who cares? Because it's only going to stay on for a maximum, I think, 1 minute after the movement stops. And it's running off the battery, which would be solar powered anyway. So the amount of time we're on the side of the house there is usually to put rubbish out, something like that, or take the bins out. Yeah, so it's not a great deal. And I bought two of them, one for behind the laundry door, and the other one is for the side gate, which is a little further up. So if we do happen to go out the gate, take the bins out at night, we'll have some light. Somebody decides to, you know, poke their head over the fence, hopefully the sensor will pick them up and the light will deter them as well. That sort of thing. Anyway, we'll open it up and have a look at it. Just to finish that story about the farmer, I put one up for him, and yeah, he loved it. He absolutely loved it. Shined it, because the dairy was pretty much open on one side, and that was where he walked in, and I just hung the light down from the roof looking towards where he did the milking, and the solar panel was just on top of the roof, and yeah, it worked great for him. He loved it. He absolutely loved it. Made his life a lot easier. So of course you get a solar panel. Now these are quite large panel, and you know, from what I can tell, plastic wise, yeah, quite good quality feel to it. Not a cheap, and you know, adjustable as well, rotational too. Yeah, and it's even got built-in wire cable management at the back there, so you get a fair bit of cable. Yeah, that's pretty good. So there's the panel, and then the light itself, as you can see, it's got several. They're all adjustable, up and down, left and right. You've got your sensor there, all your adjustments down there. And you can even reduce the brightness, because they are quite bright. I mean, I don't know how you're going to tell on the thing, but it's got a test, you know. So I'll turn it to 50%. Now, not sure how that comes on the screen, but there you go. You see the difference it's lighting it off. Just watch it when the light turns out. Okay, and now we'll move it to 100%, and that is significantly brighter at 100. So yeah, throws out a decent amount of light. And just by the way, I don't know if it's a problem or not, but when I had a quick read of the instructions before when I got them, and it states that you should charge the batteries before you turn the light on. So the way they are saying is plug your solar panel into it, set it all up, but don't test it. Don't actually turn it on until you leave it 3 to 7 days to charge your batteries. I thought that's a little absurd, because you really want to know where the light's shedding before you install this. I know you've got a bit of adjustability, but yeah, I I mean, even during the day, you can see where the light's shedding, but you have to have the light turned on. But what I liked about this was that there's your little template. You basically mount that on your wall in your level position, and then this just slides over it. Just slides down over it. If I can get it to like that. Clicks in, and that's how it's mounted, and then you run your solar cable off to wherever you're going to mount your solar panel. But what I liked about this is it comes with replaceable batteries. Okay, it has 2 lithium batteries in there. They are sort of about this long. I can't remember the name of them, the actual battery, but they're a lithium battery. These are the batteries that are in the solar light. 2 of these. And you can buy them and just replace them if they die. But I mean, you should get close to 10 years out of a lithium battery. In this scenario, I don't know how long you're going to get, but it's good to know that they are replaceable. You just got to undo these 4 screws, and then there's a little battery case with 1 screw to remove the cover on the battery case. They're like a big pencil battery. They're quite common in high-powered LED torches, that sort of thing. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Like, you get some mounting hardware, stainless steel screws, and even the screws on the back of the unit are stainless steel. The seal, there's a rubber seal between like this removable part that exposes the electronics and the battery compartment. There is a rubber seal around that as well. So yeah, quite well built is my impression at the moment. And these really come in handy in places where you don't have power, or if you know, you get a price to get a Sparky out, you're looking at probably by the time you buy the light and then you pay him to install it, you're probably looking at close to a couple of $100, if not more, depending on where you want the light and how hard it is for him to get power there. And then he's got to run a switch inside and all that sort of thing if you don't already have some kind of light outlet there. Plus, if you want to convert an existing light to a sensor light, well, then there's a bit more wiring involved in that, so you can expect to pay a little bit more than just a plain light. So the good thing about these is basically you drill 2 holes, tap in some plastic plugs, screw them in, slide it on, and then you've got another couple of screws for wherever you want to mount your solar panel. It's probably the trickiest one because you want to get as much exposure as you can to sunlight with that. I may even end up making a tile mount for it, like I've done with my solar panels for my security cameras. I'll just see, depending on when I have a look around, where I can possibly mount that. Yeah, so it's relatively easy for anyone who's got, I don't know, you need a hammer drill, because most of these are going into brick. If you had a weatherboard house, which not many people got weatherboard houses these days, but you could screw straight into the weatherboard. But most likely you drill them into brick, so you need a hammer drill with a masonry drill bit. And I'm guessing around a 5mm, I haven't measured it yet, but probably a 5mm or 6mm masonry drill bit for that. And you're not going in too deep. Look at that, it's probably 25mm, 30mm long deep, and most bricks are around 100mm wide, so you shouldn't have problems with them breaking through the other side, and relatively small. But yeah, masonry drill, and then you tap them in the hole, which is usually a little bit smaller so they compress, and you tap them into the hole flush with the brickwork, and then basically you put your template over there, or your little mounting plate, I suppose you'd call that, and screw that in. And when that screws in, it'll actually push that out and make a nice strong friction anchor once you screw it all the way in, and that'll hold it in there basically. And screws won't rust because they're stainless steel, and I think they're actually 316 stainless steel, because the one in the back here, the four in the back there, the magnetic tip on the screwdriver had no effect on the screw at all. So I'm seeing it, they're 316, which is a higher grade stainless steel, not just 304, which is a lower grade, which has magnetic properties. But 316 usually is completely immune to magnets. So that's how you tell the difference. So my initial thoughts is, the feel and the quality is pretty good. They have this plastic, I suppose, cover for the LED lights, because LED lights are very bright to look at. I know you're not supposed to look at the light, you're supposed to look at the light shining, but a lot of people tend to look at the light, and this frosting helps cut that absolute glare into your eye down. It's still quite bright to look at, but yeah, that helps. I know my wife will like it, because we had some that were just LED exposed lights in the garage, and I had to retrofit this sort of frosting onto the cover because she just couldn't bear the glare of it. So that's good as well. Alright, so I'll take some measurements and work out where I'm going to put this. I have a fair idea where I'm going to put it, and yeah, once we get over there, we'll go through and work out how we mark it out, drill the holes, and get this part mounted, and then get this solar going. Okay, so I'm here, and these are some of the tools I'm going to be using. Okay, so we've got a drill, which is also a hammer drill. It's cordless, but it is a hammer drill, and for what we're going to be doing, probably more than enough oomph, because masonry is a bit harder on the drills, so you want a decent drill for masonry. You may have to go to a corded one if your cordless one doesn't have a hammer. Most corded drills have a hammer function. Okay, this has got a 6mm drill, masonry drill bit, and you can tell a masonry drill bit by the shape of it. You can see it's sort of like a chisel shape on the front there, a bit different towards, and that's a bigger diameter than the rest of the drill. So this does all the work. All that does is to help drive the masonry that's removed out of the hole. Okay, so also got this is an impact gun. You don't need an impact gun. You can use this on there, or a regular screwdriver, just a Phillips bit on it. That's to drive the screws in after we've fitted the plugs. I've got some got a hammer to knock the plugs in, because they tend to get a bit tight at the end because they're tapered. Tape measure, because we did do some measurements. A Sharpie to mark our measurements. This is a bit of painter's tape. You don't have to be painter's tape. You don't even have to use tape, but I like to use it as it's an easier reference, and you can draw on it so you're not drawing all over your brickwork. Yeah, and it's easy to remove because it's painter's tape. And of course we've got some safety gear, some hearing protection, and I've got safety glasses as well. Okay, that's basically what you need, and obviously a step ladder or some way to reach where you're going to put it. I'm going to be putting it above the left side of my door here. There's the original light there, and you might say this is overkill, but it is happening quite often, and yeah, they were there, and it was cheaper, almost the same price as a sensor light, and I don't have to do any wiring or get an electrician in to do it. It's a lot easier. So that's my reason, and I'm sticking to it. So as you can see, you've got some tape up here. I'll tell you what I've done. Now I needed about 100mm gap from the bracket above it to remove the light and actually be able to get it off and refit it. So that is, I started off by measuring down from the lowest point here, which is my fascia, down 100 mil there and down 100 mil here, and you can see the little mark, little dot mark there and a little dot mark here. Okay, and then I put this painter's tape on that mark to that mark. Now that's 100 mil down, but not necessarily level. Okay, because your house is not necessarily level. Even though this doesn't have to be dead level, there's a bit of play on that bracket system anyway, but we try and get things as level as we can. So I have a spirit level, not a spirit level, digital level there that I'll put on the bracket before I mark where the holes are going to be joined. So now this line in the center here, I want to sort of get it in the middle between this space, between the drain and the edge here. So I've measured that distance and halved it, and that's that position there. Okay. Now I've removed the bracket. As you can see, that is a mark on the bracket as well, which is the center line. So the bracket's 100 mil wide, so that is marked at 50 millimeters. And then basically the plan is to take our bracket, match the line up with the line on the bracket to the line on the tape, and then we'll put our spirit level up on there and adjust as need be, this way, this is exaggerated, or that way, depending on what our level says. And once we've done that, we can then mark where our holes are going to be. Actually, I'll mark one hole, and I'll tell you why. First, because my house is bagged, if your house is rendered or bagged as well, even normal brickwork, sometimes you have little lumps and stuff. Like my bagging has a rough texture to it, and over here I've got a couple of little things here that are going to get in the way, so I'm just going to tap them down with the hammer and they should just break off. You may need a little chisel to remove them, because you don't want the plastic bowing and twisting because of these things. So let's give them a little tap tap. A little bit up there. That's it. The rest is pretty good, nice and flat. Okay. Right, so I'm going to set you up on the tripod because I'm going to need two hands to do this sort of thing. Hopefully I'll be able to zoom you in so you can see, but we'll see what happens. And I will set my up in position, and I'll set the level on there, 0.5 minutes. Yeah, so that's pretty good. So I'm pretty happy with that. I've just marked that with my Sharpie, as you saw, one hole. Okay, I've only done one hole because the problem with masonry drill bits is they tend to walk until they bite in. So if I mark that hole and then, you know, it'll remove my mark, so I won't know if I was exactly on it or not. If I've already drilled the second hole over here, when I got it in, I may be that way or maybe that way. Okay, so I'm going to drill this hole, and then that'll give me, you know, a bit of pivot room to make sure I'm level again, just in case I've gone over here a little bit or gone over there a little bit, which it will do that. I don't want it to go up too high. That's the main thing. I want it to stay, if anything, on the lower side to give me the room I need to remove the light fitting if I have to take it off for some kind of battery or replace it, or who knows. Okay, so that's a must. It needs to be able to be taken off. So anything I want to drill on the lower side of that mark so that I don't go too high, because I've got 100mm plus 5mm of gap above it, so I can get it off nice and easy. So that's the plan. Now I'll get the drill out and I will drill that. As you can see, I have a depth gauge of just basically some electrical tape that I've measured the depth of the wall plug, so that, because you don't want to go too deep but you don't want to go too shallow either. So if I get it somewhere around there and go a little bit deeper than that, it's not a big deal, but I don't want to be too shallow and then it sticks out. So that's the reason behind that. Now when you start these, start them on your normal drill until you get going, because the hammering function will make it bounce around even more. And so if you start with a normal drill until you get a foothold, you're more likely to stay on your target. Now you see me angling it up because it wanted to walk up, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm angling it down to get its foothold down so it doesn't walk up even further. So now I've got a foothold, we can switch it to hammer and go to depth. Try and keep it level as you can. On the camera angle it might look bad, but it's reasonably level by my eye. Okay, so we should be okay. Now when you blow into that hole, you should close your eyes. I'm wearing eye protection, but still close your eyes, because dust and debris will come out of there. That's the reason I'm blowing. So yeah, close your eyes, and if you can, hold your breath and then blow it out, and don't breathe in until you have let it settle for a bit, because you don't want to breathe it in. Wear a mask if you're worried about that, but there wasn't a lot in there because I was evacuating it as I was drilling the hole. So now I've got that one in there. Install the wall plug, or the first one. Okay. That went in quite easily. I tend to like the ones that go in a bit tighter, but these screws are a little bit longer than the plugs I had, so I've gone with the original ones. I normally use the green plugs or the blue plugs, and yeah, they tap in much tighter, but these come with it. We'll see what happens. And that's in there, and see how we're nice and flush with the brickwork. And you don't want to do it up like no tomorrow, because we want to be able to move this, and eventually you want to rotate it out of the way so we could drill this hole and then just slide it back up. Okay, so we're below our line, so we have more clearance than we originally wanted, which is better rather than being above the line. And I have a little bit of adjustment there, but I'm happy with where that is now. So what we'll do is I'll grab my level again. Okay, so we'll just fine tune that, and that might move again. And this time I've just done a dot. The other one I filled the whole, it's like a little oval, I suppose you could call it, because I didn't care. I wanted the lower section of that oval. Now I want a dot because I'd rather this be in the middle I don't want to go any up and down, or that's going to affect the level. So now we can move that out of the way, and we're ready to drill it. Same procedure as last time. We want to be right on that dot and slowly start, and hopefully we won't skate around. I can see it going up. It's moving around a bit, and I'll just sort of, now I'm in the about to start, that's about where it's going to go. Yeah, and it's actually come a lot, not too bad. Yeah, it's pretty good, pretty good. Okay, back on the hammer. Okay, now I did notice that wandered a bit, but we won't know how much until we get the next plug in there. So no, right. So now we can knock this plug in. Actually, pretty. Don't even need the hammer really. Now I can see it went high, quite a bit high. Really loose this and I can get a bit of move, because it likes to wander when it starts. So let's get that in there. And yeah, we're a bit out. We might be able to get a bit of angle on there. You do have a little bit of manipulation. You can manipulate it a little bit. But you've only got so much you can do. But I think I'm pretty much on the money there. Has tried to go off a little bit. Okay, so I'm within 10 minutes. That's not too bad. We will barely see that by eye, if at all. Okay. That's on there nice and tight, and yeah. Oh, there you go. We're right where we're supposed to be. So that turned out quite well. Like I said, I was very surprised if I did that I got it that great good. Usually things move around quite a lot with masonry. First thing you want to do is to check that we can actually get our light mounted now. And you can see it goes straight on, clicks down, and there we are. So and to release it, push down on the tab and up you go. They call this like a similar, well, it's basically a French clip, I think they call it, only it's mounted a little bit different. So there we go, and we have adjustability anyway. Now the idea is to keep this particular light, so the sensor light is at 90 degrees to the wall, the flat part, because if as you lift that up, the sensor detection zone moves up with it. So this particular light is meant to be kept down there, and then these ones, if you need to tilt them up further, or you know, that particular way, if you want to light up something further out, use these ones rather than that particular one. But I've got a relatively small area here, so I'm really not too fussed about that. I might move that one out that way to shed light down there, something like that. I think will be good. So now if we put that on 50%, that is going to light up. That's on the test, so it's lighting up this whole area. Okay, so I mean it's a bit hard to tell in the day, but that's pretty much it. That's on test now, so that will go out. There it goes, and as we move, it's just picked me up there on the way back. So hopefully it'll pick up through as we come through the door as well. If not, as we move out to the bin, it should turn on pretty quickly. All right, so with that mounted, I'll switch that off, and then we're now going to work out where I'm going to put the solar panel. Back soon. Okay, here I am on the roof, and I mean, as you can see, there's the solar panel, because I have a security camera just here under the veranda, and that solar panel keeps that camera charged. And as you can see, it's a very neat install through the tile there, and it gets plenty, like as you see, this is exactly the same position as my solar panels for the house are mounted, so it gets pretty much all day sun here. So sunlight is not an issue on this side of the roof. So I would really like to put it right next to it there, but then that starts to restrict my access to my air conditioner even more so. I know there's still a fair bit of room over that side, but yeah, I tend to get on from this side because it's a shorter travel up there, rather than have to climb over, because this is polycarbonate. It's not like when you push on it, it's gonna, you know, a good chance you go through, even though you can stand on the wooden beams no problem. But yeah, just one step on the roof I would, rather than 2-3 steps to get onto the roof there. So I don't really want to have to make it myself go around that even further. So that's another reason I don't want to put it next to that one. I could go back further, but then I risk, because the tile is set in further, I have to go out to the one further out anyway. And I don't want to set it on any of these tiles, because when I clean the gutters, these tiles get pushed backwards, and if it's mounted on the tile, it's going to have to go back underneath the other tile, and I could damage it if I don't realise. So other options would be to mount it, say, over there, one tile out from that solar panel in on that tile there. That's an option. Or another option would be on the side here, something like that, assuming I can get the, well, something like that. Not ideal, probably won't get as much, or direct, won't get as much sunlight as being up there. Yeah, just a few options to consider there. This needs to be replaced, and I'm going to, I built this close to 20 years ago, and in my young age I did not consider this ply would distort and rot, so that needs to be replaced with cement sheeting, so that would make it more difficult to screw into. I would have to probably bolt it to the other side, but not really keen on putting it there unless I can put it on top here, because on top here it will get all day sunlight. But again, I did service my air conditioner and I come up through here, so the other side would possibly be a better option to mount it if I did that. Then I'd have to run the cable over to that side, which is not an issue because I have a way of dealing with running the cable the same way that I did that one. I'll show you quickly. There is the cable. Right, there's my security camera. It runs along that beam and it goes, there's a hole drilled through my fascia there with 3D printed basil, and that is in 2 pieces so that the cable can be ran through, and then that will collapse over the top of the cable thickness and then push up into the cavity inside that fascia, because it's hollow. It's a Colorbond fascia, and then I have a nut, so there's threads on the inside of that, and even though it's 2 pieces, the thread, and they're joined together, the threads line up and the nut screws on there and holds it up in there so that the actual Colorbond doesn't cut through the cable for it rubbing over time. So I could do a very similar thing and just sort of come from here, it'll just loop out and go up straight into the Colorbond fascia there, and then run it along there, come out directly underneath the tile where I would like to mount it, or actually mount it onto here. So as you can see, this beam here is quite wide, so I could drill through the flushing and screw directly into that, and that would get me here. But the problem with doing that is that then once I'm in the fascia, I would then have to drill another hole on the outside, which is very difficult. There's not much clearance between the top of the roof there for it to come out, or I come out underneath the gutter for the solar panel, so come out over the top of the gutter. Yeah, so I have a decision to make there, and yeah, we'll figure something out. I'll have to think about it, maybe over a cuppa, and then we'll work it out. Okay guys, so here's the solar light installation, and if you can see there, I basically 3D printed a nut that's captive in this groove here. It's not an ordinary square nut, it has a cutout, as you can see on the left hand side here, for this, because this bit of aluminium extrusion is not at the same level as the one on this side, so I had to cut out a rebate for that. So that's okay, worked out. It has a captive nylon nut in it. And as you can see, bolt comes through there, and that bolt is actually
recessed in a countersunk hole that I've built into the 3D print here. There's one pretty much directly under there, and the other one is directly in the center there. I'll show you the drawing of the 3D print a bit later. And these other ones, I've used M4 button head, focus, button head bolts go in there, and you can see underneath, if you want to focus, you can see it there. There's a nut which I've recessed into, well, countersunk the nut profile into the 3D print, so that when I tighten up the button head bolt, I just hold the nut up and it won't spin. And I've done that on the one on this, on that one as well, and that mounts it. As you can see, the cable just runs through a little cavity, natural cavity in the tile there. But I will make something to protect that from the wind rubbing it against the tile and wearing it out. But that's pretty much it for that part. Right, okay, so I would have preferred this cable coming in from the top, but I understand why they've put it in from the bottom. It'll be so water doesn't enter through the gap where the plug plugs in. I mean, that could have been designed a different way, so it still went in through the top, but it is what it is. And so but what I've managed to do, I don't know if you can tell, but see, the cable is running underneath the light there against the wall. It's not actually meant to do that, it's meant to come out from the outside, but I didn't really want this wire hanging on the outside, so I noticed there's a fair bit of play on the I suppose the slide where the light slides down onto the bracket there, and I tucked the cable right in tight near the slide, and just out of, I suppose, pure luck, it manages to hold the cable underneath there and slide down over the cable and keep it all underneath. So it looks a lot neater. I mean, you still get it coming out the top there, but yeah, that looks a lot better than it did before. Alright guys, so if you want to stick with me, I'll go on to show you the mounting through the actual tile, which I have to do on the other light down there, which is up, but we still need to run the solar for it. I don't have the overhanging on the actual solar panel channel brackets on the roof up that end like I do this end, so I have to mount through the tile. And if you want to hang around for that, yeah, I'll get into that next. Okay, so here is the 3D drawing, and this is of the actual I suppose you call it T-nut. It slides in, and this is the section I had to cut out for the aluminium extrusion, because the other one sat underneath here, but the one on this side come in over this side above the bottom, so I had to make room for it. And if I turn it around, you can see on the bottom I've recessed enough room It's just like a sliding fit for the nuts, so they push in, and it's enough of an interference fit that you can get it in by hand and they'll stay there, they won't fall off. So when you put the bolt in, the bolt will come in from this side, even when you're trying to screw it in, it won't push the nut out. It's like a perfect fit. I've done several of these, so I sort of know the amount of clearance I have to give it, because one, if you do it for size, that's no good, because I noticed when I've done these previously before, you get a little bit of shrinkage from the plastic, so the hole gets a bit smaller. So I do it for a little bit of clearance to make it getting in easier, and I also allow for a little bit of shrinkage, so it's around about 0.3. So it's, yeah, about 0.3. This whole polygon needs to be about 0.3 of a millimeter bigger than the diameter across your flats. Of your nut. So if your nut is say 10 mil across the flats, between this flat and that flat, then you'd make this polygon 10.3 in the same dimension. And that will give you a little bit of interference in these little angled areas, and that's what you want. Those little angled areas will hold it in position while you are putting your nut and your bolt through the top, so it won't just fall out. Because remember, this is sitting in this position, so your nuts are hanging down the bottom there. You don't want them falling out while you're trying to put it. And you can hold your finger in there, but it's just easier if they stay there. Okay, well that's the and I just put a little small chamfer there just to help guide the bolt through, nothing fancy. All right, now the other piece we had, I'll look over here, top plate, I'll turn that on, I'll turn the other one off. Now this one here, this is the top piece that gets bolted to, let it turn on, to that piece, as you can see, but it's the other way around. It's just the way I've drawn it. For the ease of printing, I wanted these on the top because, sorry, that was printed that way because you can 3D print a taper upwards, but see how these are hollowed out in this position. Right, you can't, it's harder to print on thin air, which I'd be printing across this direction. So once you've done all this part and it got to here, it'd be printing across here on thin air. So that you might get some droop there. A lot of printers can do it, and mine can do it for small enough stuff, but what happens is that section around here, which would be on the roof of the print, would be very rough, and ideally you don't want that because you want the, because I've got such a shallow recess, because it's not really a thick piece, only 5mm thick, and I've recessed it 2mm down and left 3mm there so that when I tighten up the nuts it doesn't try and crack the plastic to pull the nut through. So 2mm recess is not a lot of depth. So I opted to use supports in there, so that is facing the bed of the printer, and sorry, these are facing the bed of the printer, which need no supports, as they'll gradually print up, just adding on to it on a diagonal. Where these, when it prints, it'll print that as flat along with the infill, and then would start printing like around it and slowly layer upon layer until you got to the top layer here. So that's the design of that one. 2 bolt holes to mount to that T-nut, and then 3 holes. These took a bit of working out to get the dimensions, the spacing right. I pre-printed about 3 designs, but only made them about a millimetre thick, just because I only needed to see if those holes matched up. Once they got matched up, I was good to go, and then I could basically go full thickness, and just saves me printing out material. Plus it prints out a lot quicker. It only took like 10 minutes to do it at about a mil thick, and that gave me enough of a template to check it with against the base of the solar panel. Alright, so there's that one. And we've also had to do a different design for the tile. You notice the tile one is a bit thicker. It's thicker because I realised that when I recess these nuts here for the solar panel base to bolt to it, which bolts on this side, which means the nuts are facing the bottom, sitting on the tile. Now if the nuts sat proud of the tile, you would have a gap underneath here because you'd be sitting on the nuts rather than sitting on the plastic. Now the tile is not flat, but I really want this to sit as flat on the tile as I can. So I made it a little bit thicker so I could recess the nuts in there, and they would sit flush or just below the height of the plastic base here. And then we have a hole here, this is for the cable. My cable will run through this hole, and I also have, I'll turn it on, I'll turn this other one off for a sec, and I'll make it a little bit bigger for you. Right, this is what I call a basil, a 2-piece basil. I'll try and centralise it. There we go. So what happens is, this diameter here fits into that hole, a nice sliding fit into it, enough that it won't just fall out. It shouldn't fall out because it's going to be mounted from the top, so it'd have to be pushed out, but it has enough interference that you have to push it in with your finger. It won't just fall out into there. Okay, and then where are we? If we turn that off, make it a little bit easier to see, this hole inside here is then just like it's so much of a light fit, so that the cable can still slide through it, but it holds it. You have to virtually lightly pull it through to get it to move through that hole. So basically you run the cable through this hole, wrong one, through that hole, and then you put these 2 pieces in the hole around the cable, and then push it in, and that just holds the cable in there, centralized in there. Because the reason I have to do this is because the end of the cable has a plug on it, and the plug is a bigger diameter than the actual cable itself. So the hole has to be big enough to run the plug through, which this is just a little bit bigger than the plug. And then I make the hole smaller to seal virtually against the lead, so the hole isn't open to atmosphere. That stops a lot of bugs and stuff getting in there. I know it's trivial, but it's a lot neater fit, and yeah, it works really well. And you'll see it in another example where I do it for where you can see it, because you can't see any of all this. This is all hidden underneath the base of the solar panel. Okay, so we do have to make a way. I'm going to have to cut a slit in the base of the solar panel mount so the cable can slide back underneath it through a slit and then enter through here to go underneath the tile, because I can just run it from the outside underneath the tile like I did the laundry door one, but it's this is a better way to do it, because it's mounted on the actual tile, and we just cut a little hole. My my solar powered cameras had a slot already in them for the cable to run in underneath them, so I'm just going to do the exact same design. It's only plastic, it won't take much to just create a little bit of groove. I mean, it's only like a 4mm. Probably have to do it 5mm for a little bit of clearance so it doesn't bite into it, and it just slides in under there and it'll go inside here. Alright, so that's the bezel, and there is also another hole here with a recessed nut. It's an M8 nut, this one. This is what actually is going to be bolting this, I suppose you call it a mount for the solar panel bracket, mounting bracket to the tile. So the bolt will go through there and get recessed in there so it can't spin. Come out the other side, then I have to drill a hole in the tile, and then there'll be a nut on the inside of the tile, and that'll hold that to that. So once this is bolted and all these nuts are put in previously before I bolt it down, initially I will use this as a template. I'll drill that hole, put the bolt in, and once I have it in position, I'll then sort of snug that down and drill that hole, or even mark it. And once that's marked, I'll remove this and then, you know, complete the hole through there and then reassemble it, and that'll be ready to mount. And because I can do this all on the ground in my shed, I can bolt that to the tile. I've brought the tiles already down in the shed waiting for me to drill the hole. Yeah, and so basically I'll drill these two holes, bolt that to the tile, and then I'll cut the hole in the base for the cable to run underneath, run between the base of the solar panel bracket and this mounting pad bracket, whatever you want to call it, and then I'll run the cable through the bezel. The bezel will be installed, and then I can bolt the solar panel mount to this one and just take it all up in one piece. The cable will be hanging at the bottom of it. I'll feed that through the tile cavity, install the tile, and then I'll run the tile to the light and plug it in. But I wasn't as lucky with this tile as I was the other tile. I wasn't as lucky with the gap between the fascia and the brickwork on the gate light as I was the laundry light. So I have to drill a hole through the fascia, and I will be using this split nut bezel on that one. So I'll drill a hole through the fascia, and big enough diameter for this thread. After I've passed the cable through there, because remember the cable plug is bigger diameter than the cable. So if I drill a hole big enough for the cable head, once the head's through, I have a big hole, and I only need a small hole. And oops, and you will be able to see this hole. This will be underneath the light. above the light on the fascia. So you will see this. So basically all you're going to see is this little hex mounted flush at the bottom of the fascia, and you'll see the cable running into it. And then it'll come out on the inside of the fascia, which is inside the roof cavity, and run off to underneath this bracket that's mounted on a tile, and we're done. Okay, so this is in 2 pieces, so you can run your tile through and then put this over the top of your cable, push it into the cavity, the hole that you've drilled, and then from the inside you just put this nut on there, and that'll hold it in there, up there in place, and you're done. Yeah, so it's nice, neat. I've done it before for one of my solar cameras, and it works really well. So I printed another one, and that's ready to go. All right, so I'll go out into the shed now, and we'll drill a hole in the tile and mount this to the tile and get it ready for installation. Okay, so here we are. Here's my tile, and you notice there's the mark from where the overlapping tile sits. So look, it doesn't make a lot of difference, but you need to allow enough room to slide your tile up, so that if you need to remove the tile below it, it'll make it easier, because you can't, because you've got about, I don't know, almost 100 mil of overlap there, probably about 100 mil overlap. So this one overlaps the tile below it by the same amount. So if you have to remove the tile from underneath it, you need to be able to slide this up inside that one, that same amount, or you're going to have to remove the tile above it. Some tiles you can't remove them above it because they're fixed in place. If they're very close to the ridge capping, they're actually mortared in place. So you can remove them, but then you're going to have to re-mortar them in, or you're going to make a lot more work for yourself. So in hindsight of that, if you give yourself at least 100 mil, so we've got a little more than 100 mil. I'll probably bring it down just a little bit further, because we've got a little more than 100 mil, and so that's a great place to put that mount. So I can slide it up and all the way to here, and I'm going to clear for the bottom tile. It just gives you a little forward future thinking, not bang. It's not 100% important. You can, but in certain places where this is getting quite high to all the ridge capping, I'd rather do it this way and not have to worry about it. So centralise your tile as best you can, and then now I've got a drill bit that's going to fit through both of those holes. I'm going to do the one that I'm fixing it down with to start with. Now we need this big enough for an M8 bolt to go through, and I think that's probably going to be a little small for M8. I'll just grab one and check it. Alright, so I've got an M8 bolt here. It fits through the hole, no problem. But what I've discovered is, in my haste to look at the back, I've come through on one of these, I suppose you call it like a support ridge, and if I put that bolt through there, the nut is going to be sort of half on it, half not. So what I'm going to do is I am going to lower this like that, use that hole for my cable, and then I'll use this one for I'll drill in a new hole below there. Good news is it fits, so we don't have to worry about the bolt hole. So now I'll just line that up, drill the next one. Okay, so now we're going to run our cable, make sure our cable will fit through that hole. Yeah, it's a very neat fit through there. There we go, thread our cable through. And we have to thread the entire thing through there. After we've threaded our cable through and made our notch, we then can fit our basil. And what the basil does is it seals this hole, one, to stop water getting in there, but we know that's not an issue, but it will reduce the chance of water getting in through there. But it also centralizes the cable in the hole, so it's less likely to rub on the tile masonry inside the hole. So the way that works is because you've got the hole which fits the cable quite nicely. So you put it over the cable and then slide it into the hole. And I like to do it so that the join between the two basils pieces are not in line with where the water travel would be. So opposite the water travel. So I'll put the join this way. I don't think water's going to get in there, but I don't want to make it easier for the water, if you know what I mean. And that just pushes down like that. Yep. Yeah. Okay, so we'll put that in there like that. Give yourself a little bit of slack, you don't need it super tension. Line up your holes. Okay, so now we're ready for our screws. Got some M4 screws, 20 millimeters long. I've already put them in beforehand. I feel them tight, and that may are nylon lock nuts, stainless steel nylon lock nuts. I always use stainless steel when anything's going outside. Doesn't have to be 316, which is very expensive. 304 is fine. If you're going to be around salt water, 316 is a must. My hand this way, and I'll give it a little. We're ready for installation there. Alright, so this is where we are so far. That is where I'm going to mount the solar panel or install the tile, but I have to get the cable from there down to basically where that open tile is there. So what I've done is I fed a piece of yellow tongue from there up to here, and I managed to throw the cable from there towards the light of this tile, and I'm going to attach, this is just some electrical tape, the cable there to the yellow tongue, and then I can just pull it through down to there. And I know it reaches to there because the panel would reach basically where my finger's pointing, right there next to that solar panel, so I'm definitely going to reach from there to there. Yeah, so I'll attach that to there, and then I'll pull it through over here and bring it back. I just wanted to show you how I got it through. This, I would have rather go straight to there, but it definitely wasn't long enough to reach there. I probably made it to about here, but it's just as easy to do that. If you have a longer snake, you can do it, but yeah, I've got a lot of insulation and pipe works, and you see a duct work there that weaves its way right down to here, would make it difficult to get past that duct anyway. So this worked out well, and it'll still reach, so that's the main goal. All right, I'll take that off, pull it through, and bring you back when I'm ready to drill the hole. All right, so I've put the tiles all back together, and there it is there, set up, all in place. Tiles there are back, and this is where I'll be pulling the cable out through. There's the end of my yellow tongue, so I'm just going to pull that through, and hopefully we won't have any snags, and I'll get the cable, and there she blows. And as you can see, ample to get to the light. Okay, so now I'll just remove, I'm trying to do this one-handed now, I've made a little tab there, hopefully that'll make it easy. There you go. See if I can hold the yellow tongue with my knees. Oh, there goes the round, get rid of the yellow tongue. Okay, so now it is just a matter of, I don't know if you can see it, that's the inside of the fascia right there, right down there, and there's no light. Well, there is light, but with my fingers, I don't know, I've got a bit of room there, but I don't, it's going to be squeezing on the, very hard on the cable if I try and just force it through there. It's going to be difficult, probably buckling it, and it's easy to drill a hole. So I'm going to drill a hole through the bottom of the fascia, and the cable will go through there and come out the bottom, hopefully just on the left of that here, so directly above that corner edge, and it'll be nice straight install there with minimal cable frame. All right, I'm gonna remove this light and pre-drill the hole, and yeah, I don't really have anything to hold the camera while I drill the hole in that here, so I'll drill it and then come back and show you when I'm fitting the little basil that I made. Back soon. Okay, so there's the hole drilled, and just be aware it's very thin material, so it's never going to turn out pretty. But the main thing is that our little thread basil fits in the hole. Okay, no problem. So now we can run our cable through there. I've done my best because you're always going to get a burr on the inside here, and I couldn't drill it from the inside down because I should have checked this before I mounted it here, but fortunately this is where it had to go. I really wanted it to go. So this particular tile here, because of my solar panels mounted on top of it, I can't slide this tile back to get access here, so I had to go on the next one across, and yeah, I just can't come down through there, so made it a little bit more difficult, but hey, we've managed. And you just clean up the burr as much as you can with a file from inside on an angle like this. Haven't got it perfect, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just we don't want a big thing, because this nut has to come down and sit on that edge of where those burrs are, and we want that to sit flat. It's only plastic, it's not steel. You could use a steel 16mm nut if you wanted to, which will give you a bit more push down, but I mean, this is mainly just to stop stuff getting in and out of there and make it look a little nicer than a big gaping hole. So it doesn't have to be done up like no tomorrow. So I'll run the cable through there now, yeah, we'll come back when we're about to fit the basil. Okay, so I've got enough cable running through there. Just be careful of pulling the cable against that hole, because it will be very sharp and it may strip or get caught on the installation of the cable and damage it, so be careful. And I've given myself enough cable, because that's how it's about to run about like that, and it's probably going to end up about down here. by the time the light's fitted. So that should be enough cable in that too. So now we have to fit this nut. Look, I'd love to show you me putting it in, but it's going to be very difficult to do this with one hand, because I'm going to need two hands to put this in there, and then alright, I'll go get the tripod and so you can see. It's about as good as I can get it for you. So you place the two basil halves and try and match up the threads over your cable like that, and then you insert it into the hole like that, and try and turn the split so it doesn't show to the outside like that. And I've got the nut on the top here. This is the difficult part. Now I'm going to get the nut. Oh, actually, no, I made a boo-boo. I have to pull the cable out, thread the cable through the nut first on the inside. Get the cable through. Careful. There's enough in there. Now we have enough cable. On there. Okay, just check we've got enough cable. I think we have. I'm sorry if you can't see much, but I need to hold it or it will fall out probably. How does that look? There we go. Now that looks a hell of a lot better. Alright, now we'll fit our light. So I'll try and do the same as we did with the other one. Run it like that. There we go. There's probably a bit more cable there than I'd like, so we'll take it back up again. Try not to totally remove it if we can. And just pull the cable. No, not gonna let it. Oops. Pop it off. Okay, so we'll bring you back to there. That's not bad. You don't want it pulling it in, but that's pretty good. And we'll push in as much as we can there. And that's locked in. So now we can angle around again. So we want that to light up back that way, and this to light up on that side. And that's it. We're good to go there. I'll just close these coils. While I'm here, we will turn on. So we want 2 minutes, and actually put it on to test. There you go, so the light works. That should go off. Okay, now we'll wait a couple of seconds, and then if I move, the sensor light's working. So I'll now move it to 120 seconds, which is 2 minutes. So that'll stay on for 2 minutes. If there's no movement, it'll switch off. Now, the importance of that basil, it makes for a neater install, but it also stops the cable rubbing on the sharp metal of the fascia. Yeah, so that's the installation there, guys, and we're done. I'll get rid of this ladder, and yeah, maybe we'll come out tonight and we'll check it out because it's all set. You just got to set the intensity onto 100%, so that'll be as bright as we write. And I've sort of worked it out later on that if you come up to the gate here, the sensor actually picks you up as you get to the gate. So if you put your hand on the gate, top of the gate, it picks you up as well. Give you another better look at it. Go up on the ladder so you get a better look. So there's the bezel installed. Okay. Yep, all the tiles are shut. And so you can only see the solar panel. And it just, I'd rather not see this cable, but the way they designed it, yeah, it would have been nice at the top here, but or even coming in from the side would have been a good option. But yeah, I don't want to pull it too tight because it'll be pulling on the plug, and I don't want to damage it. So that's probably the way it's going to go. But not a bad install, and a fairly cheap, but you know, I'm hoping quality light, and that way it'll also sensor if I've already tested it with the test sec function. If I come up to the gate from the outside, even with the gate shut, it turns the sensor on. So if I come through the night, or if somebody tries to come through the gate without my knowledge, hopefully the light turning on might scare them off. If anything, it'll light up this area so my camera down there will see them. Yeah, and that's it, guys. Thanks for coming along with me for this little install. Hope you got something out of it. Please like and subscribe. I'm trying to grow the channel a bit more. Yeah, and I'll see you on the next one. See you later.